Cheers and welcome to the Passport Files. I'm your host, Brian Clark. Today, I am so excited to have on the show Below Deck adventure star, environmentalist, and entrepreneur, Oriana Schneps. Oriana is here to share her experiences on what it was like to be a cast member on the show, her love of yachting, and much more. Hi, Oriana, and welcome to the Passport Files.
Hey, Brian, thank you so much for having me. I love your intro. It was awesome. So thank you. I'm really excited to be here and to talk through all the trials and tributes of yachting.
Thank you so much for joining. So how have you been? Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, I've been good. It's been a wild ride. Absolutely loved being on the show. Our season just wrapped a couple months ago. Just since then, keeping up with all the other, below deck yachties. And it's really cool. It kind of opened up a whole community of people who not only love being, part of the marine world, part of yachting, but are also crazy enough to go on reality TV. So got a lot of new crazy friends, and I'm really thankful for all of them.
How does one, well, we'll go into Below Deck in a little bit, but how does one get into the yachting world? Do you like walk up to a yacht and be like, hey, I want to do that? Like, what's it like? How do you get into that world?
Yeah, no, great question. And I actually do get this question a lot because it's not something that you're going to elect to study in school, right? And not a lot of people, especially from where I'm from, the Northeast, even know what yachting is. Typically, what you do is you go through a class. It's called the STCW course. And there's a bunch of different places to take the course. Most people head down to Fort Lauderdale. And having hospitality background is a plus. But you do learn a little bit in the STCW about kind of what to expect. A lot of it is also physical challenges and, tests and whatnot. So there's swimming tests.
Survivor, do you have to do
kind
Survivor
of
challenges?
kind of. You have to hold a brick over my head while treading water. It's not quite as extreme, but we do have to get dressed up in fire gear, go into buildings, extinguish, fake fires, stuff like that. So it gets pretty serious pretty quick, but it gives you the necessary tools to kind of get your first gig. And then, you do a lot of day working, a lot of networking, and you really just kind of have to grind through and, find your way up into the industry. There's a couple sites that kind of help you with job listings, but, it's really just how committed are you to getting someone to hire you.
Well, you've made it to the pinnacle of yachting, I feel, in my world, is getting on Below Decks. How did you get onto the show Below Deck? What was that process? Did they come to you? Did you come to them?
Yeah, so being a little bit eccentric, I'm sure helped get me on their radar. But, they kind of reached out. We had our initial conversations after I did my Alaska season. I did kind of this off the beaten path, yachting season in Vancouver up through the Inside Passage. And that really kind of helped solidify, she is somebody not only in the yachting community, but who does more of the adventure side. At the time, they were casting for Below Deck Adventure. So there you go.
What was that like? Because I know Below Deck, is Mediterranean. What's it like going to Norway and being on Below Deck? Because it's kind of chilly there, right?
It's definitely kind of chilly, and it absolutely comes with its additional challenges. When you're doing the Caribbean Med seasons, you're really familiar with the ports that you're going to be in, right? So provisioning, for example, taking something that we do in the interior and making sure that we have everything that their guests might have on their preference sheets is a lot easier in those locations. The more extreme the area might be, the more extreme you kind of have to get with your creativity and figuring out, how to keep the guests satisfied when we might not have access to their favorite stuff.
And you got to be extra careful because if someone falls off the boat, they sink in the cold water.
They sink and they're frozen. Yeah, it's definitely difficult for the deckhands. It's a lot colder to wash down the boat. All of that kind of conditions you take in consideration as well. It definitely got chilly, but we had a hot tub.
Being on the show and you're in cramped quarters and you're actually working, it's your job, and it's not just your job, it's your career. It's what you do. It's what you love. What's it like having a TV camera in your face all the time when you're trying to just do your job?
Yeah, yachting is literally the most perfect stage for reality TV because you're doing your job, but you're also living your entire life. There is no separation, which is kind of the premise of the show, right? So there's no break from your job, which is already mentally, taxing. And then adding in the camera crew, it was really difficult. It took a long time to get used to it. And you kind of do try to put on a little bit of a different persona, like not even realizing it, just because you're nervous, right? You're like, I've never had a guy with a camera following me around. So coming into your own, not to get like too cheesy, was something that, was definitely something I struggled with. And yeah, it's hard to feel natural in front of a camera.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't realize that, when you're sitting on your couch and you're watching shows like The Circle and Below Deck, you're like, oh, I can do that. Or why are you not doing that? Like people don't
Right.
really talk about or think about the mental aspect of how difficult was it like mentally to, have that experience?
It was probably one of the hardest things I've done in my entire life. It was, absolutely draining and it sends you over the edge at times and you're the only one that will pull you back. And you have to do it all like without really kind of, making a fuss about it because they'll get you on camera for it, right? So you're kind of trying, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, right? Like holding in your emotions if, you might not be happy with the outcome of that. And it was really challenging.
It's like Oriana's about to snap. Everybody,
Yeah, exactly.
the producers, let's get this on camera. This is great. Now, do you think some people do that? Like, I don't want you to call out any names because I know that you've had, whatever on the show. Everybody has their things. But do you feel that some people aren't their genuine selves on, some of these shows when the cameras come on as opposed to when the cameras are off?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would definitely agree. Part of which you can't really fault, like I was kind of explaining before, it's even if you just without a camera production crew, if someone's videoing you, no matter who you are, you're going to change your personality a little bit because like it's just something unfamiliar. But there's absolutely that kind of degree of like, let me get as much airtime as possible. Let me see, how crazy I can get. So that way, there's more viewers kind of on me, which is something that, power to you if like you kind of had that strategy going in and you're able to kind of be that person, it does make for great television.
Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 being you feel like your authentic self was shown, and 1 being that, what we saw is not you at all, how would you rate, the edit for that, where 10 being, that's exactly who you are, or 1 being that's not who you are at all on the show?
Yeah. I mean, I did it all, right? So an element of the show is 100% who I am, but I would say that there's a lot more to me, and I think a lot of the story that like wasn't told. And I think most people will have this opinion as well, of their characters because the producers have a very short amount of time to tell a story. And the crazy thing too is like while you're watching it back, you're realizing how you're perceived by everybody else as well. So like you might be thinking you're doing the right thing or you're trying to be the good guy or you're trying to be the bad guy. And then you get to also learn how like your actions are interpreted by, the rest of the crew or the rest of your cast.
Now, I don't like to talk about regrets, but is there anything that you would take back if you had a chance, if you were in the editing room, if you had something, what would it be that you would take out of the show, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, there was a time in it where they made a quite a big storyline about my epaulets, which is kind of like in the signifier of being whatever level of stew you are. I would take that completely out. That was something that I really didn't understand was becoming storyline, and I genuinely did think that that was my role since day one. And then me trying to also explain and justify that didn't, I don't think, come across authentically or like in the best light. So that was pretty rough to watch, especially given kind of the reality that I lived through in that conversation. So I think I would love to just edit that whole thing out. But if that wasn't possible, I definitely wish that I kind of understood that was a problem earlier on and confronted Faye, the chief stew, or that Faye would have just said, hey, dude, like I'm your manager. I'm going to come talk to you about this problem. And it didn't turn into kind of this like catty situation. Made good TV, but it kind of, made me look like a little bit of a douchebag. So I don't know if you can swear on TV, on a podcast, but
yeah, you can say, listen, you can say whatever you want.
Whatever you want, all right.
Shit,
I never know across different platforms. I'm like, I don't know. So I'm trying to reel it in. But yeah, I mean that was pretty hard to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, this is a safe space. You can say whatever. You can get it off your chest. This is like therapy. This is travel therapy, meditation. Say whatever you want. There are no rules on this podcast. You're
no rules is the only way to live. So I love it. I'm here for it.
YOLO. Tell us a little bit about your background, like growing up. Like, did you grow up in the water? Did you, Did you grow up on a yacht? Like, what's your background?
I wish I grew up on a yacht.
Same.
No, I got into kind of the marine world through working at the New England Aquarium. So I kind of did it from the research side of things. I went on a couple expedition collecting trips with that research organization. Yeah, it was awesome. And like I kind of spent a long time devoting myself to the aquarium and to like the marine conservation causes. Outside of being just a aquarium, right? It actually they spend a lot kind of trying to educate the communities about marine conservation. So they taught me how to dive. They took me to the Bahamas a couple times. I worked in their penguin tank. I was the one that like fed the penguins. I worked in their like shark tank as well and their medical center. And then I just realized like this is so much fun. I love it. And then
Did you
after
say,
college,
hold on, sorry. Did you
yeah,
say shark tank? Did you work in a
yeah,
shark tank?
I did. I did. Yeah, I was the youngest diver to ever get a position in the shark tank.
How old were
So
you?
they either really liked me or really wanted me eaten. I don't know which one it was.
Like, hey, we want to get rid of this person. Let's throw her in the shark tank or
Yeah,
on a shark
exactly.
tank time. How old
Like
were you
this
when you were
has
in the
been a
shark
lot
tank?
around for too long. Like we need to get her out of the aquarium.
Did your parents know you were in the shark tank?
They did. They did. Yeah, I think that was one I had to wait to be 18 for, I believe. I dove in it prior to it with like a million lines of, sign off from my mom. I think that was once I was 18 and I had to pass a couple different diving certifications to get that job as well. But then, yeah, I was able to swim around there.
Ooh. Now, is that something like, oh, I love sharks. Do you swim with the sharks now? Do you like go into the Bahamas and like look for sharks?
I mean, I don't look for them. Like if they're there, that's awesome. But I'm not like trying to jump on their backs and ride around or anything like that.
Yeah, well, take a great white for a ride.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not quite that brave.
You're a diver, correct? Where's your favorite places to dive that you've dove?
Oof, that's a really good question. I really love the blue holes in the Bahamas. There's not much wildlife there, but they're just eerie. Like going down, 120 feet and understanding kind of seeing all the stalactites, and it's really like an eerie experience. You sometimes don't know which way's up and you're kind of just floating in this abyss. It's super dark, super, yeah, scary. You feel like there's going to be skeletons that jump out at you. So that's
Hey, there
definitely
might be. There's a lot of pirates and stuff happening in the Bahamas, Caribbean. You never know what's going to be down there.
exactly. Yeah, they
Have you ever
used to
been in a situation where you've had a situation when you're diving and it's kind of sketchy or scary or anything like that, or have they been pretty smooth?
They've been pretty smooth. I mean, some of the scary dives, they're going to be on night dives or ones with like, less visibility, and definitely making sure that you surface with enough oxygen is pretty scary. Being a dive master too, so like leading the dives, it's your responsibility as you're underwater to make sure that your whole group has enough oxygen. And when you're diving to certain depths, you can't just surface. A lot of people think that, if you're running out of air, you just swim to the top, but you can't. There's all these things that will happen to your body from physical level, and you'll pretty much like implode. You can get pretty sick. Oftentimes you can be saved, but death can occur as well. So just making sure that there's enough air to go around is probably one of the scarier things to focus on.
What's on your diving bucket list? If you had to pick a couple of places that you're looking at, where do you want to dive at? What's your bucket list?
Yeah, I really want to, well, Galapagos definitely up there. I want to get into like talking about extreme diving, doing some more in-depth diving in the cenotes in Mexico. So kind of doing that like cave diving. And I also do want to try ice diving. I've done a lot of cold water, but I've never been like under the ice. So that's on my list.
Did you say ice diving?
Ice diving. It would just be so magical. Like I can't imagine anything more beautiful. And I'm going to work up the courage and the skills to one day do that as well.
Where does one go ice diving?
I mean, Alaska, Antarctica, that kind of place. You can also do it. I think in Canada, there's a couple locations as well, but those are the big ones.
When you're on a reality TV show, they film a lot. Did you have much downtime when you were there without any cameras in your face?
Is that a joke? No, none at all. Yeah, no, that's also what makes the experience so challenging because it's a significant amount of time filming. So, we're filming for, months on end pretty much with very little downtime. There's a little bit, but not a lot. And kind of adjusting to that as well as adjusting to being on charter because you're working when you're on charter, 18-hour days on average, consistently. So doing that for a couple of weeks you're going to change your personality for better or for worse, right? Like it's kind of inevitable that you're going to snap, you're going to get tired. You're going to drop things, all that kind of stuff.
That's what production's hoping for. That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
We want some crazy stuff happening. I would love to go on one of those boats, but I feel that the rooms are so tiny for you all. Like, you got these little bunches. Like, do you ever get claustrophobic in those rooms? I always wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely not. Partially because you're so exhausted most of the time. You're just like, cool, this is a horizontal location. I'm gonna pick here. You know, it wouldn't really matter when it's time to go to bed where it was. You get used to it. There's a couple days adjustment when you haven't been on board for a while where you're like, yeah, this is tiny. Like, how am I gonna ever fit in here? But you adapt.
I know that for me personally, it would be a dream if I ever had a lot of money. I would love, or a friend with money, I would love to go on a below deck show, right, and be one of those people. Not necessarily because listen, I'm too old. I think I would break something, and I think after a half a day, I would just call it because y'all do some back breaking, difficult work, and y'all have to clean up after a lot of people that are real messy. I remember when y'all first got on the boat, it was messy. Like, how is the boat messy before you even get on the boat? Like, who are those people? Like, did you write them a letter? But the question is, how does one get on one of those like boats to film, and how much does it cost?
To come on as like a guest or as crew?
Yes, yes.
To come on as a guest. Yeah, so I'm actually not sure the cost associated with it, but you know, it's a couple days that you're chartering this vessel, and you know, it is a real cost. Like, you do actually come and sign up for this vacation experience. But it's similar to kind of how we get on. You know, you have additional conversations and, you know, mutually figure out this is the right thing for that group of people to do.
Now, have you ever run into any? You don't have to say any names, but have you run into any just big jerks that you just wanted to just take them out?
I'm sure that thought's crossed my mind about every single person I've worked for or with at one point. But no, honestly, it's an incredible experience. You know, at the end of the day, they're all on vacation, so everyone's pretty happy. And I haven't really had, thankfully, an experience where I'm like, I'm leaving the industry. This person's terrible. Forget it. I've stayed in contact with everyone, and I love it.
Oh,
It's
that's
fun. I
nice.
mean, as long as I'm doing my job and they're having a good time, they shouldn't have anything to be a jerk about.
Absolutely. What's it like being there's a celebrity and then there's being a Bravo celebrity? How has being a Bravo celebrity changed your life? Like, do you have people coming up to you, opportunities? Like, what's it like?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, first, thanks to everybody who watches Bravo and, you know, who does kind of, yeah, support us in the shows that we're producing. Because it does take a lot of time. You know, it's a big commitment on our end. And it's insane how big and how supportive the community is. Like, I remember going to, like, you know, Florida, whenever I'm in Florida or New York, like, people will come up to me all the time and ask to take, you know, photos with me, ask, you know, hang out, all that kind of stuff. Lots of DMs and things as well, of course. But I didn't really understand kind of what that meant till after filming. And yeah, it's Bravo's huge. Bravo's everywhere. It's like an all-seeing eye. It's a really awesome, really supportive community, and I've met a lot of people and like fans that way, and I'm really thankful for it.
And you met Andy Cohen, right?
I did, yeah. So I was asked to be on Watch What Happens Live with Captain Sandy a couple months ago, beginning of this year. So that was incredible. I never thought that I would have that opportunity because, you know, it's kind of like a selection process to get on. So I was, yeah, definitely thankful. I was terrified. I was probably more scared for that than anything. Like, more scared than that than filming because of who Andy is and how quickly he can destroy you.
Andy Cohen, and it's live too. There are no takebacks, there are no edits. It's just what it is.
Yep, and it's a very, very quick. Like, you walk in, I don't even think I remember going into the studio. I was just like, oh my God, I'm gonna see Andy. It's kind of like you're going to see Oz, right? Like the Wizard of Oz, and you're like facing your doom, or like the Sorting Hat, Harry Potter, that kind of thing, right? Like, luckily I was with Sandy, and that kind of was really comforting. I absolutely love her, and she being there with her helped, but it was terrifying.
Sandy is awesome. Would you ever go
Yeah.
on a boat with Sandy? Would you be a stew with Sandy?
Yeah, I would absolutely love to work with her. I mean, as being someone, you know, who's kind of a female entrepreneur and, you know, really business kind of minded and trying to kind of, I guess, push those, you know, boundaries, if you will. I really respect what she's done for the industry and that Bravo has done for the industry as well. You know, like being able to show people what yachting is has really meant a lot for the communities.
Yeah, and let's dive a little bit deeper into that. You're
All
not
right.
just the stew. You're not just, you're doing some big things. So tell me about the entrepreneurial side of your life. What do you got
Yeah,
going?
so I'm kind of focused in the tech space, and right now, over the past, you know, 2.5 years probably trying to find ways to combine, technology with the yachting world, because it is such an antiquated industry. So there's lots of new solutions that really need to be put into play. So I'm working with, one of the brokerages right now to kind of bring them like a little bit more tech forward. And I've developed a couple other products in the past. I actually was the first, my past company was one of the first to 3D map a 90-meter yacht for the metaverse. So I co-founded this product with two other like fellow co-founders. And what we did essentially, the concept was, when you're trying to tour yachts, when you're trying to book a charter, you only really have these like 2D photos of the yacht if it's in a different location. Because if you're going to be chartering in Italy and you're, based in Fort Lauderdale, like, can we elevate this experience? So using, the kind of metaverse glasses, right, that you guys see, it's kind of like a joke. Everyone's playing around. It looks like they're walking around blind. You're able to actually traverse a vessel using that technology. So that was super excited to develop that product and just continuing to build out from there.
I love that. And you're already in the metaverse. Like, I don't even have I'm a boomer. I'm not really, I'm Gen X, but like already in the metaverse. Like, how did you get into that? What brought you into that world?
Yeah, so it's funny because, after the crash, right, the NFT crash and all of that, it's like a hated industry. So I really don't talk about the fact that I was in the metaverse very much. I'm super happy that I had the experience to understand the tech, especially blockchain and what it can do from like a contracts perspective. But yeah, I got into it. I've always been, interested in leading technology. I've been around part of crypto since 2014. I was in kind of, the fintech field prior to developing that metaverse company as well. So it was something that kind of just like aligned with what I was doing at that time in my career.
I love that. That's awesome. We need a TV show based upon that. Like women entrepreneurs in the field of tech and yachting. That would be a great show. Like, hello, Andy Cohen, are you listening? Let's get this greenlit right now. Or Netflix, my show.
Right, at Netflix.
Yeah, at Netflix.
Right.
Now, I know that
those for like, female brokers, that kind of the business. Like one of the brokerages that I'm working for, like a Selling Sunset for female badass brokers. So
now that would be something that would
be
incredible.
At Netflix.
Hello, is this thing on? Let's do it. Any other Bravo show ask you to be on other than the Below Decks, like Summer House or The Housewives? Which show would you be on and why?
Oh, that's a good one. No one's asked me that. Probably Summer House, because it's most relevant to my life.
Oh, so you just be partying all summer?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no, I spend a lot of my time up in New York, and I kind of understand that lifestyle, right? I live that lifestyle. I've been out with the cast before.
Oh,
so
really?
Probably. Yeah. So probably Summer House. It's an awesome show, and it's cool because, as somebody who is coming out of yachting, right? So like I'm not just in the yachting field, but I'm really trying to like parlay those skills in combination with, the tech entrepreneur kind of environment. It's something that, isn't really being done by that many yachties. And it's similar to most of the people on that show are entrepreneurs in one way or another themselves. So I kind of align with that mentality for sure.
Who's your favorite Summer House person?
Oh,
who's your favorite? I won't tell anybody. Who's your favorite?
You're totally gonna tell everybody.
I'll put this on blast. Who's your favorite?
My favorite. I mean, I really do love Paige. I think she's great. She's hilarious.
Her fashion game is 10 out of 10.
And her attitude game. Like, can we talk about that?
Right. I love it.
She's classy and cold, and just like I'm so here for it. Gotta respect her.
Can we get the Summer House people on Below Deck and just do a mashup? Like have all the Summer House people go on an episode of Below Deck. That would be incredible.
That would be insane. Absolutely.
I need to be in production. Like do you have a contact for someone at Bravo headquarters where I would get some shows greenlit? Okay, I know they had like Summer House and Winter House, a mix up of that, like all the houses. But yeah. I think we need to put you on a boat, and that you need to be like the chief stew of that with Summer House, Winter House, and you as chief stew.
I would absolutely love that. That would be insane. That'd be so much fun.
Send y'all
I mean,
to the
I think,
Bahamas.
yeah, what are you doing making podcasts? You should go into production.
I know, right? Well, this is how I get my voice out there. This is like, hey, listen to this podcast, but also here's some great ideas.
Yeah, but also listen to my ideas because they're awesome.
Yeah,
But no, I mean that's the cool thing though about a lot of the Bravo shows is there's so much ability to cross over, right? Like, there's a lot of kind of things that kind of overlap, with them between like the different ones. So.
It's a lot of fun partying. I love your show. It's so fun. It's so cool, and you all make it so like seem like so whimsical, and so I know there's some drama and everything, but you all make it seem so elegant and fancy and cool. But there's a lot of hard work into being a yachty, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the only shows too where like, you're also working, right? So like we're doing the partying part, we're up, energetic, and alive for all that. But then we're also working the 18 hours days. So trying to kind of find that like elegance is definitely a struggle. So I appreciate it. I'm gonna take that as a compliment.
How do you get the energy? Okay, you work in 18 hours, cameras in your face, dealing with people. Y'all go out, y'all don't just go out. Y'all go out, like y'all go out, and then you come back, and then you're still going in the hot tub and everything. Like, how do you wake up the next morning and like do your job?
Honestly, I never thought that I could. There's been days where I'm like, I'm done. I don't think I can work today. Like, I just need to, jump overboard and like
just jump off the boat.
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump out. I'm not even gonna exit. I'm just gonna like Irish goodbye, like roll overboard. Yeah. No,
Norway?
I mean, it wasn't honestly during our season terrible. The water was quite cold. I want to say like 50s or 60s, which when you're in it is cold. The air, though, it's probably high 50s, sometimes up to 70.
Did you know, like before you filmed, did you know you were going to Norway? Did they tell you like right before you were going on?
It was pretty soon before we went on. It was kind of like, here's your ticket, here's the location sort of situation. But, there's a lot of things when filming overseas that you need to take consideration in terms of getting like visa approval and things like that for production. So it does make sense that it's kind of, they tell you only when everything's solidified.
What was the trip that you first got your first passport for, and where did you go?
That's a crazy question. I don't know if I even know the answer to that.
We get crazy on the passport files.
Weird. Where did you first get passport?
It's the passport file, so I got to ask about your first
passport. Oh, fair enough. Now I actually have to have a real good answer. Oh no, time's ticking. It'd be interesting if you timed people to try to figure this out too. Me trying to buy time over here.
I'll edit out, or will I not? I don't know.
No, I'd probably say like when I was little, I went to England with my family, and that was one of my all like prim and proper. That was probably one of the first trips that I went on.
That's awesome, Oriana. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been the highlight of my short podcast that I've been on. You're the third person I've interviewed, but I got to tell you, my circle people are great. I got to give them love, but to have someone from a show that I love so much is just incredible. And if you see Andy Cohen, tell him that I love him. And I want to know, does he smell as good as he looks? Because he looks like he smells good.
Should I just smell him next time if I go and watch what happens? Just get up and give him like
and be like, this is for Brian from the circle.
You know what? All right. You might have a deal.
All right, Oriana.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much. So where can we find you at if we want to search you up and stalk you on the internet?
So if you want to stalk me, I mean, typing in Oriana from Below Deck will pull up pretty much everything about my life, better or worse. My Instagram's, at Oriana Schneps. Same thing for LinkedIn. I'm Bored Yachts Stew on Twitter. And then TikTok's the same as well. So yeah, if you guys listen to the podcast, shoot me a DM. Let me know what you thought. If you have any questions about yachting, you want to talk about Summer House, want to talk about yachting, whatever, you want to talk about Below Deck, The Circle, Brian, want to talk shit about Brian, shoot me a DM. But yeah, so you guys can find me, and I am pretty active. So definitely.
I love that. And I love that you're so down to earth. Like, you're a superstar, yachty, celebrity, international jet setter, but you're super cool. That's awesome. It's good to know.
Well, thanks. Yeah. I appreciate that. That means a lot. So thanks for your time. And this was fun. You're so easy to talk to. So I really enjoyed it.
Hey, we got to do this again. And if you want to come on, bring your friends, bring Andy Cohen if you want to as well.
Yeah, bring Andy Cohen. No problem.
I would die. I would be deceased. I would just I'd jump off the screen if you brought him.
You'll jump overboard with me. I'm like, all right, fine. Yeah, no, for sure. I'd love to come on again, and there's definitely other people that I'm sure would be happy to join as well. So we'll make it a below deck party.
I like the sound of that. And listen, if I ever win the lottery or this podcast blows up, I'm coming on below deck, and I'm gonna be so fancy. I'm gonna be so bougie, but I'll be so nice to you. I'll clean up.
You just be nice to me. Don't be nice to anybody
Oh
else.
yeah, we'll just roast everyone else and
Yeah.
just have you come hang with us. That'd be perfect.
Perfect.
You are so awesome. So thank you so much. Again, you can find the Passport Files on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and everywhere you listen to your podcast. Please make sure you like, subscribe, review, and share with your friends. You can find me on Instagram at the Passport Files Pod and Worldwide Bry, and on YouTube where you can see the full interview live. Thank you so much, and cheers.